Excellent. Right, away we go. We are live on YouTube if you're watching us live, or we are delayed on YouTube if you're watching us after the festival has finished. But either way, this is the 13th of 13 panel discussions that we've run during the festival, and unluckily for you, there will be no more. So let's get into this one. This is the one for Best New Zealand Narrative Series finalists, and all five titles that are up for this award are represented, and tomorrow you get to glare at one another. But today let's have a pleasant discussion and enjoy learning about you and your shows. So let's kick off with the obvious one. Give us the elevator pitch. To introduce the show to anyone who's not familiar with it. James, you were first through the door, so do you want to kick us off?
Sorry, just figuring out how to unmute my microphone. Yeah, hi, my name is James Bayliss. I'm the creator of a silly little web series called Warlock, which I like to describe as a combination of Adventure Time meets Blue's Clues meets modern social media. About a guy who finds a book full of magical spells and wants to learn them all to become the most powerful being on the planet. That's
So
it.
Voldemort's origin story, really, isn't it?
I guess so, something like that.
All right, so fairly broad in scope, but and we will learn more as we go on. Ryan, do you want to tell us about Fuck Boys?
Yes, kia ora te whānau. My name is Ryan Richards, and I am the co-creator of Fuckboys, which is a eight sketch, absurd, fast-paced comedy web series. It's based on myself and Hamish, who's the other co-creator. We ended up doing three shows in the New Zealand Comedy Festivals over the years, and it was a matter of saying, do we make another live show that hundreds of will see, or do we make a series that potentially thousands will see? And obviously, we chose the latter. It's absurd, and all it's designed to do is make you laugh and nothing else.
All right, excellent. Okay,
Cheers.
Gwen.
Kia ora, my name is Gwen, and I am one of the co-directors for Literally Dead, and my other partner in crime, Victoria Bolt. The series is created by Casey Williams and Rachel Fawcett, and it's a murder mystery that follows a dead teenage girl who stalks her high school graduation party to figure out who killed her.
All right, Liv.
Kia ora, I'm Liv. I'm the director, co-creator, co-writer of the series The Sender. I co-wrote and co-created with producer Jessica Todd. The Sender is an over-the-top, sort of campy, fun, funny teen series that is a vertical series about a bunch of prefects who all go away for one last night of debauchery before they go into their final year. And while they are there, they all get anonymous messages from a mysterious sender who has dirt on all of them and is threatening to out them unless they do what they say by midnight. Sorry, spoiler in there. But go watch the series and you'll find out more about it. But yeah, there's some subtle discussion about some important issues for young people woven through the series too.
All right, thank you. Chai Ling.
Kia ora. I am Chai Ling Huang. I'm the co-creator and co-director and co-writer of Camp Be Better, which is a 6-episode series on TVNZ that is about an imaginary boot camp reform for rich kids who commit crimes, whose wealthy parents can pay for them to go do a community service camp instead of going to jail or getting any kind of criminal record. And it follows a young woman called Nia, who is a povo, somehow managed to infiltrate this system. So as a comedy, it's very goofy, it's very 90s, and it's essentially about how broken the justice system is, but it's hopefully very funny.
All right, excellent. So, let's get the question out of the way about the money because there's never enough of it. Even when there's plenty, it never matches your dreams, or your dreams just get bigger when there is money. So I don't want to talk about money and numbers, but it presents challenges. But tell us about a challenge that you have making this show, which is not about the money, but is about something else that was either peculiar to your production or just peculiar in itself, in that it's not something you'd come across before, but had to find a way past so that you could deliver what you wanted to deliver. Liv, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I we had a very specific issue that came up right at the very end of post-production because our series was made for Instagram Reels and TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And I think everybody here will know there's different sort of systems that you have to use for each one of these platforms to be able to fit within what they deem to be okay. And our series, because it's a team series, I really wanted to include like upbeat, current New Zealand pop and like youth focused music to kind of go in with the team genre. And we were so lucky to have so many artists who collaborated with us on the series. Marlon Williams, Chai, Who Shot Scott, a huge playlist full of New Zealand artists. But we found out as we were finishing post production that, and we'd been looking into this for like over a year, all of the technicalities around how we could use music, found out that TikTok only allows 59 seconds of music on any one episode, which we had been looking for that sort of information and not found it. But once you know, you know. And then we had to re-edit basically for TikTok in order to be able to put the series on TikTok. So that was a huge learning curveball. So anybody who's looking to make digital series, the 59-second rule, they haven't changed it since TikTok used to be a minute long. And yeah, just really like the social media platforms change what is okay and not okay so quickly. So just like keeping up to date with those was a real struggle. Like even things that were okay at the beginning of when we filmed in January were not okay when we released a few months later. So yeah, social media platforms.
Yay. Do they do stuff retrospectively to you if it's already published? Is that kind of it was okay at that date and that's fine, we'll keep it like that going forward, or do they come back to you and say, yeah, we've changed that, you can't have it anymore?
I mean, I know there was one, like we've released the whole series on Instagram, and obviously like to help get it past our immediate community, do a little boost on trailers and things like that. And I don't know whether anybody else will have noticed, but when ours, we can no longer boost because the parameters of the video specs that can be boosted have changed
Mm.
since May this year. So, so yeah, things are just constantly changing, and that it won't allow those videos to, even though they were the highest spec at that point in time, I don't know whether they're currently up to spec anymore. So yeah, things change all the time, and they often don't favor, past creators. They're not necessarily going to let you retrospectively make things better for you. They'll just do whatever works best for the platform, which is, it's okay. It's our series was sort of a slice in time, talking about really relevant like issues for like the beginning of 2025 almost. But things have changed really quickly since then in terms of how young people use phones and social media.
Yeah, it is a bit frustrating, that kind of constant change stuff, isn't it? We notice it a bit. We will do stuff like, promote our submission deadlines and things like that. And then, and 2 months later you go to promote the next one and they won't let you do what you did 2 months ago. And it's kind of, you want my money or not? It's, but that's their problem. Ryan, what tried to trip you up with fuckboys?
I mean, there were a range of, thanks, Keith. There were a range of different challenges, but I think one of the things that Hamish and I didn't want to compromise on when we were writing it was the gags. So sort of write the gag, write the joke, and then figure out the logistics later. And that tripped us up a little bit. I'll try and think of it. Well, I'll make reference to it. An example. We wanted Colonel Sanders, a jacked Colonel Sanders, to kick through, bust through the door, and the door to come off its hinges, and for it to be like a silhouette effect with a whole bunch of smoke. And all of those things provided massive challenges because obviously, first of all, getting the door off the hinges, and then when the door comes off the hinges, not denting the floor or the adjacent wall. And then, of course, the smoke. There were built-in smoke alarms that we couldn't take off. So we had to find a way of, wrapping them up in Glad wrap and duct tape as not to alert them. So all those things, which were, it was all fun, sort of, rolling up the sleeve and doing the mahi and making it happen. But yeah, the nature of not compromising on jokes meant that you were creating challenges for everyone else, yourself included.
Okay, all right, Chai Ling.
Yeah, I mean, the entire production was a massive challenge because we were trying to create a world populated and run by the 1%. And obviously, like you said, budgets lol. So that was really fun trying to make, everyone look supremely wealthy. Probably the other more interesting challenge was working with a very young cast. All our cast members had to play 18-year-olds, but they were kind of a range of ages and experiences. But we were really keen to use this opportunity to find people we haven't worked with before, kind of discover new people. So we did a massive call out. We did a nationwide open casting call. We had about 300 tapes for all of our characters, for our top like 7 characters. And we just saw so many amazing, insane people. So we landed on this beautiful, incredible cast. The fun and difficulty of it was that it was a lot of people's first time on set. And usually, that brings so much enthusiasm, heaps of dedication, lots of fresh ideas, fresh vibes, and it was so much fun. Wouldn't trade them for the world. But when we went to do pickups, 2 of the cast members cut their hair without being released from doing that. And so we had to essentially just cut them from all of their scenes and rewrite the scenes around the 3 actors who hadn't cut their hair, who were the lead characters. So that was a very fast writing challenge, and a big lesson for those 2 actors who did that. I'm not going to name and shame, but they know
No.
who they are.
Yeah, well, we know who they are if we watch carefully, don't we? It's good.
Well, we didn't shoot them. We just had to rewrite them. So that if they're featured a bit less, maybe you'll know. But I think we balanced it okay.
All right. James.
Whenever I do a project, I always try and set myself a challenge. That's primarily my focus of doing any particular project is to find something and go, can I do it? And then go, I think I can. And then get to the end of the project and go, oh yeah, cool. I've done it. That's awesome. So for this one, I worked with a green screen and an animated background sort of thing before, but never multiple people on the green screen at the same time. Walking to and from and interacting with each other, and having the premise of the joke being that it's just people walking on the spot, so having to try and get them to cross over and interact and walk off the screen and walk back on the screen, all while not actually moving at all, I think was a fun challenge for me to overcome in the editing process. But overall, this whole project itself was every facet of it was a challenge to me. I took on the editing process, I took on the animating process, I took on the music, I took on the writing and everything. It was just something for me to get to the end of and go, yeah, cool, I did that. That's something I can be proud of.
All right, thanks. Gwen.
A unique challenge for us was definitely bringing Casey's great script to life. We're making like this murder mystery. We're trying to keep the mystery of who killed her a secret, and shooting it in a way that the viewers because it's full of flashbacks of the murder scene, and like trying to film it in a way where people don't like get the clues, and there's heaps of flashbacks and then rewinds. And so one of the challenge was True is she dies by drowning. So someone's drowning her, and we had to shoot someone's hand on her head. And so we did cheat it a little bit. We kind of swapped people's hands so that you can't really tell whose hand it is throughout the episodes. Yeah. So we were a bit cheeky with that, but definitely writing a doing like a web series that's full of like time jumps and flashback scenes was something hard to keep track of.
All right. Okay. Talk about audiences a little bit, and kind of how you identify them, how you find them. I asked this question in the last panel, which was for the people up for the New Zealand Short Fiction Film Award, about sort of how they were thinking about them and when they were thinking about them, and they all said they didn't think about the audience until they were done. They were just doing something for themselves. I guess that's not always a luxury that you have, especially if somebody else is putting money in. Um, but um, but how do you go about it? Charlie, you kind of had some broadcast element as well, and therefore people in the mix who aren't necessarily involved in web series on a normal basis. So how was it for you?
Yeah, I mean, we had to think about the audience a lot because obviously when you pitch to get money, those stakeholders are, you know, very focused on how they're going to reach their people. They're usually trying to reach a niche audience or some expand their audience into strengthen their audience that they're trying to target. So in this case, it was rangatahi for us. And yeah, there were a lot of things that we considered when we were putting it together. The pace was especially something that we built into the scripts from the very beginning. Our scenes are all incredibly short. And I think that was a learning curve for us too, because I think we had we just slammed the pace. We wanted it to be super fast. We didn't want to patronize the audience. We realized that young people consume content at like record, breakneck speeds. And so we wrote all the scenes to be hella short. Um, Assuming that everyone could keep up with us, which I think was a good call. But I think also looking at it now, we could have balanced that to have a few more scenes that could just breathe a little bit more, and lean into the drama elements when it did get heavier. I think we kind of earned that. But it was a really good exercise because that was baked into the script and it allowed us to be, we really wanted to be super flexible because we knew we had no money. So we had to be, we wanted our kind of feature of the edit and of the show to be the fast pace because of that rangatahi audience. So we deeply considered who we were playing to at the very beginning. I think on balance, it was quite difficult because obviously when we were working with broadcast, New Zealand On Air have their own obligations to withhold and to hold up to in terms of how much drug use you can have, how much swearing you can have. And they were as flexible as they possibly could be. And I think there is quite a lot of swearing in there, and quite a lot of drug use actually. But it's, the way that it was shot and everything, we realized that young people consume content like Euphoria, where just everything is seen. It's so bald-faced now. They can go on TikTok and everyone's, they can find people having direct experiences about any kind of issue. So there's nothing that's really hidden from them. So we wanted to be quite honest in that regard too. But that push-pull between, what's actually allowed on screen for taxpayer dollars to,
Yeah.
have that respectful guidelines was quite difficult. But in terms of creating and writing the scripts, we did interviews with young people. We tried to put it in front of, we had some test audiences that we invited that were young people as well. We kind of had two audiences at the same time as well, because the show's quite 90s vibe. We really think that millennials really love it as well. And we found that too, that we were making it for ourselves in that regard because we're corny millennials. So there's a lot of corny millennial humor in there too. But then the content, I think, and the cast are all very youth oriented. So we had those two kind of groups in mind. And yeah, it was just a really interesting combo.
All right, thank you. Gwen.
So for Literally Dead, we got the funding through the New Zealand On Air Within My Reach funding round, and so that entailed the funding to be for young people and for young audiences. So it was an opportunity for me and Casey to upskill, and so we definitely kept the young Gen Z audiences in mind through the costume, the music. We were definitely highly influenced by Euphoria, but with like half or even a quarter of the budget they had. And yeah, last year we were very influenced with like, Charlie XCX, Brat. So the music was definitely quite brutal, harsh, but also the story itself, we wanted to reflect how hopeless or the hopelessness that youths feel. The world is falling apart. So this kind of dark comedy, Literally Dead, hopefully speaks to them. And so that's what our goal was.
Okay. Did you have any particular obligations in terms of what percentage of budget or what amount of effort you had to put into getting audience or trying to get audience?
I don't think they had a specific requirement, but the Within My Reach definitely was more of a social media like first approach to the content. So we released Literally Did on YouTube, and we did like vlogs that we posted on YouTube as well. So hopefully our audiences would be also be watching that as well. And a little bit on Instagram and TikTok as well. But that was the only obligation that we had.
Okay, thank you. James.
I hate to say it, but it really was just self-indulgent. I was just opting to make something that I wanted to see. My theory is there are 8 billion people on this planet. If I make something that I want to see, then chances are there's somebody else out there that will want to see it as well. I just liked making something that was so silly and so stupid and just made me laugh. And not necessarily just for me either, but for the rest of the cast on the project. It was an opportunity for us to all get together and just play silly buggers for a weekend and get something out of it at the end. Like, yeah, we are the audience of our own creations. It's a fun life.
And since you finished it and started putting it out there, have you identified sort of who's enjoying it in any way that makes it easier to push it towards them or to reach that audience next time?
That's a good question and something I should probably pay more attention to. Um, yeah, there were some like surprising people who provided feedback, and I was very thankful for that. Some people who were really interested for when the next episodes were coming out. Um, I haven't necessarily discovered kind of like a target audience outside of people who are like me, nerds, uh, millennials, um, just people who want to laugh, really.
All right. Liv.
So we were part of the Within My Reach funding as well, which is also aimed at young people. And the idea for the series actually came after I made a documentary called I Stand for Consent, which was about consent education in New Zealand and how young people were calling for consent education to be made compulsory and young people having a voice on education and sexual harm and harassment, basically. And whilst I was making that, I realized that online image abuse and online privacy issues and like basically all of that harm was now happening online. And so that was something that the young people I was interviewing as part of this were directly telling me and saying, like, this is the thing that's happening and nobody's talking to us about it. Like, we're not being taught anything about it. We're not being educated about it. So it was something that I really wanted to make something about. And when this funding round came out, I was like, well, obviously, this is a thing that young people want to talk about. but it is a issue that's really tricky to talk about. So how can we join those two things together? So the project really was audience first. It was aimed at like a young female, predominantly female, and probably queer leaning audience who had a lot to say about the issues around online image abuse and online harm and harassment. And so then it was like, okay, we've got the issue and we've got the audience. So how do we connect the ideas together? And thought about the sorts of shows that audience really like, and creating something that was engaging and fun rather than like serious and sad. And I felt like I wouldn't want to engage with something that was going to be really down buzz about the issue. So it was like, set myself the challenge of how can we make something that's really like upbeat about this? And so the idea of making a sort of Gossip Girl-esque kind of Ryan Murphy over the top show about teenagers who are being threatened with images about, you know, that could compromise themselves and ruin their reputation sort of came about. So I would say like the audience was the very first thing almost that we thought about, and then worked back from there in terms of what was the best way to communicate and start discussions about these ideas. And we know from our own analytics that we hit that audience and that they were engaged with it and they enjoyed it, and have had young people come up to me and say thanks for talking about that issue, and like that they found it a really fun, engaging way to talk about it, yeah, to get the conversation started. So yeah, go audiences.
All right, Ryan.
For us it was the audience wasn't a huge factor. We were fortunate enough we didn't have to have any constraints. Wouldn't have to compromise because the show wasn't funded through the taxpayer, or any constraints. You know, if it was connected to a particular network. So we in a way had full license, and actually we knew there was an audience. For the type of absurd comedy that Hamish and I enjoy. But unlike Live, it wasn't audience first and then content later. It was like, well, we kind of have an inclination that there's demand out there for this type of content, but let's make, focus on comedy basically. Whatever gag was the funniest made the final cut. So yeah, quite a different journey in that regard.
Do you dig into the data at all to?
Absolutely. And we knew there was a bit of a niche audience here in New Zealand for us, but what we've discovered is that a lot of our views and across all socials and engagement is a lot of it's from the US. I think it's about 60-70% US, which has been quite cool. And then yeah, Australia and New Zealand and a few other Western countries make up the remainder. But yeah, the US was the biggest uptake.
Do you run into any problems in the US with being called fuck boys because they get iffy about language, you know,
Yes,
perfectly
they
happy
are.
to shoot people, but they if you
On
say
the on
fuck,
the
they get offended.
Yeah, on the conservative side, they always have been, always will be. Yeah, no, not so much. We never actually say it, so it's kind of based on your pronunciation of the words. So yeah, no, there hasn't been a problem there, Keith.
All right. Hopefully it stays that way. Um, so, in terms of what you've got back from doing this, not necessarily large amounts of dollars, but probably some learning that you're able to take forward into whatever it is that you decide to pursue next, or maybe given when some of these were made that you're already pursuing. But what was a takeaway that you weren't necessarily expecting to get from starting on this project? You're all looking very thoughtful. I'm just kind of trying to decide who to throw under the bus first, really. So spin the wheel and let it land on James.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Biggest takeaway from this was, yeah, that it's doable. If you want to make something fun and cool with your friends and just put it out there for people to enjoy, that you can do it. and you just got to do it with what you've got if you've got nothing else, because yeah, that means it gets done and you're putting something out into the universe that wasn't there before, which I think is the best part of being a creator. And um, it inspired me to just keep doing more, move on to bigger and better things. Yeah, see what comes next year. I'm real excited for what's coming and how we're moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Liv.
Something I personally learned and it has helped me, like, I think because the idea, it didn't necessarily start off as like this funny teen series. It was just, how do we talk about these things? And then it turned into this teen comedy. And at the beginning, when we were writing it, I was like, I love to laugh, but I don't know if I'm a very funny person. Like, I'm not necessarily somebody that they would call a comedian. And so we were writing it, and we wrote it, and we got help from a comedy writer to help us like amp up some of the comedy as well, which is great. But I had an amazing mentor, Damon Fupuliai, and he said to me, oh, he's a really lovely, gentle man. And we were talking about directing comedy, and he was like, I mean, you don't have to be funny to direct comedy, was what he said. He was like, he's done plenty of comedy directing, and he's like, I find he's quite a gentle man and doesn't really, he's not a kind of exuberant comedian. So yeah, I guess it was sort of that was, I don't know, sort of gave me the freedom to be like, actually, as long as I laugh and I think things are funny myself, and other people think things are funny too, then that's sort of enough. And yeah, and then also throughout the process found out that people do think I'm really funny. So I was like stoked. But I guess don't box yourself in was something that I learned. Like, don't box yourself into doing like only one thing that you think you can do because of other people's perceptions or your own perception of yourself, that actually you can do just about anything when it comes to creating, and you should try something new and you'll find that out about yourself.
All right, thank you. Ryan.
Mute. Yeah, actually, I don't want to sound. Yeah, it was an overwhelming amount of gratitude, actually, more than anything else. So one, yeah, major thing I got out of it was just, um, yeah, like feeling so grateful for everyone who contributed to this thing. We really, pulled in all the favors, and everything that everyone gave to this thing was just so wonderful. This whole thing of, I think, and we sort of forget that we're all wanting to help each other, and I don't know. It was just I guess, short answer is I just felt, completely heartwarmed by this whole process, including, the booster campaign and literally everyone who contributed to it. So, you know, isn't that lovely?
Yes, and there's been some pretty impressive crowdfunding campaigns this year in terms of people raising money to take on stuff that's maybe a bit more ambitious than what we've seen from crowdfunding over the last few years. That might possibly be because there's not much paid work around, and people can't afford to be as generous with their own time and money as they have been in previous years. But whatever the reason, I'm aware of at least three productions that have raised over 25 grand this year, whereas a lot of what you see is they're looking for five, occasionally 10, but yeah, 25. I think that's pretty ballsy, given that most of the platforms are all or nothing. So yeah, good on them. Gwen.
I think my biggest learning curve was, like everyone says, when you get on set, all your plans go out the door. We like for my director's prep, I planned like 6 shots for a scene. And when we got there on the day, we only probably had time for like one or two. And so I think there was something special that happened in pre-production where like somehow I just like memorized all the layouts of the room and could somehow know or like pull together all 6 shots into one. And so my biggest learning curve was definitely the directing prep is important, and be prepared to let it all go out the door, because yeah, you never know if something could go wrong, or like you're running out of time. All that prep is like stored in your body or mind somehow, and then you can figure it out.
And get an experienced first is is the other way of saying that, really, isn't it? It's having someone who's kind of, really got all that sort of technical stuff down pat because they've been doing it for years to allow you to fly, really. Chiling.
Yeah, I learned so much on this project. It was my first narrative series. So my major learnings were from the entire crew, which I think on Ryan's point, I think I also learned that our budget was so low for what we were trying to achieve. We had this camp, we had 5 leads, we had these young people, we had rich parents, we had a shitload of these amazing extras who came through for the whole shoot with us because they were all the campers that had to remain consistent. It was massive. It was like 90% exteriors, traversing this huge, camp across several weeks. And I think the point is maybe don't limit your ambition, because the people will be drawn to the project if they think it's cool. And I think people are so willing to throw down for you their time and their expertise if they just love the concept. And I think the concept of Camp Be Better was just so fun. And the team ended up being so rich and beautiful and experienced that it was sort of a twofold thing. I ended up learning so much about, director's prep, as well as, how to operate on a set, how to call shots very quickly, how to be very decisive and make decisions, and how to capture things within, 1 or 2 setups, as opposed to, the 7 that you had planned. There was lots that went wrong in terms of the exteriors and the location that we had. Obviously, weather was a nightmare across some of the days. We were sort of on the cusp of summer turning into autumn, and so we kind of had to like pivot around different locations. But I think, yeah, trusting my instincts. I know how to work fast. I love a challenge, and just kind of knowing that that does translate really well to series, because I usually work in theater a lot of the time. That was a really big learning curve as well. And just having heaps of experienced people around you, I think, was a really big learning curve at the same time, because I think generally with my other work, I try to upskill people and bring people with me. And for this shoot, I was probably the least experienced of most of the people on set. We had Hayden J. Wheel, was the co-director and co-writer, who's done many feature films from an indie perspective, but worked on loads of professional productions. Pepe de Hoyos and Simon Duncombe, who'd done loads of shooting before. And Johnny Eagle, who was our AD, who's worked on like Mission Impossible. So, it was a real good reminder to not limit your ambition because you don't have those skills. The other people around you and your team can kind of bring that. And really, like on the shoot, no idea was too extreme. We ended up having, big crowd scenes. We had nudity. We had Mission Impossible running style, things. We had like stunts. We had people on kayaks. Freaking, I directed loads of fight choreography for this thing. I've not done any of that stuff. And I think from a producer's kind of health and safety brain, I found myself a lot of the time being like, oh, like this is an idea I have, but like I don't think we can do that. We don't have the budget for this, the amount of health and safety this is going to take. But then Hayden was always the one to go like, wait a second, like that's a great idea. Let's just try and do it and see what happens. And 99.9% of the time it was so achievable. So I think that was also a mindset shift to go like, okay, don't limit your ambition. Yeah, because people will kind of come and support it if it's cool.
All right, thank you. So, one of the great differences between web fests and film festivals is that web fests are rarely in at the beginning of the journey for a piece of content. They're not, most of them, not trading on exclusivity. We're not kind of, this is your first chance to see, this is your only chance to see. We're sort of in the realm of stuff that's been made for a while, even if it's, some of it has been made for a while, even if it's kind of still continuing. So, in terms of what you got out of these shows that you've been able to take forward, what are you up to now? Are you kind of have you moved on from these projects to other ones? Or is there more of what you've been doing to come? Sort of, I'm not particularly interested in what's paying your bills, but we all know that kind of making web series is not the path to a great retirement. So, what are you up to, Ryan?
Thanks. Yeah, so Hamish and I have decided to make another live show, another stage show. And we kind of thought we might have been done with it, but it turns out we're not. We had such a fun time working together, and there's more gas in the tank in terms of ideas. So yeah, next step, now we've got the series out there. The series is obviously going to help, with ticket sales on the live stuff and vice versa. So yeah, well, that's the next step. Another show as part of the comedy festival, hopefully.
Great. All right, Liv.
Um, so right now am in the process of like considering what a future of the sender might be. In terms of there's been some interest in it possibly being a bigger TV series, which is really great. But sort of thinking about, we were publishing the stuff on social media because that's where young people watch their content these days. But so if we make a TV show, are they actually going to watch it? It's sort of a question that I'm pondering right now, and doing a focus group with a bunch of young people soon to have a discussion about that and the sorts of things that they want to see on screen and the sorts of issues that they want to talk about, especially with the rise of AI. I think that that's going to have a big effect on young people and the new technologies that are coming out and changing really quickly, which is also a challenge to turn into some sort of a series as well. But that's one thing. I'm developing a feature film right now, which is very different sort of style altogether. It's a feminist revenge film set in my hometown of Littleton. So that's also on the burner, and I think partially due to the success of the sender, I've started doing some commercial directing, which is again short form directing, fast paced, and yeah, getting to think about the audience and the issue and connect all of that stuff as well. So it's been a really great experience making the sender.
Great. All right, Chai-Ling.
Yeah, I think similarly, I've just got so many pitches. I'm always I feel like my life is just pitching for my life. You know what I mean? It's always a pitch somewhere out there in the ether. Yeah, but in terms of Can't Be Better's future, we did really well, and I think the audiences really loved it. We've got some amazing feedback and some interest from overseas to do kind of like adaptations, because it's sort of based on the justice system. It has quite a powerful resonance, I think, with a lot of countries' setups in terms of their prison systems and kind of indigenous rights as well. So that's been interesting to kind of follow up on. And yeah, Joyce Wong, who is our tireless producer, is just waiting for the right deal to kind of to get us overseas, basically on an overseas platform, because we are a full 30-minute series, 6 episodes. So I think once we do that, the kind of plan is to do another season and have more money to actually make things look very wealthy this time, which would be good. And yeah, we had a short film that we're throwing around festivals called Beast Mode, made with some of the same team. So that's me and Joyce again. And that's also got a feature in the works as well. And I've got a theatre show opening on December the 9th at the Herald Theatre called Genuine and Stable. It's my theatre company, Proudly Asian Theatres, return from hiatus. We've been hiatusing for a year and a half. So come along to that. It's an immigration partnership visa spicy little love story with a bit of mysterious content in there. So yeah, if you're in Tamaki, come to that.
Right, thank you. And Joyce is in the UK at the moment. She picked up money and connections to go and spend some time over there. So hopefully she's closer to and more able to get to some of those larger markets and twist people's arms to get Camp Be Better into different places. And because there's certainly, I mean, the UK in itself has a dreadful justice system, which is kind of famous for getting things wrong. So I can imagine there'd be a decent audience for it there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
fingers crossed.
hopefully she's having good fun as well as good work over there. Gwen.
For Literally Dead, hopefully we'll be able to do a season 2, but that is all up to Rachel and Casey, the creators. Um, I'd love to do like an anthology where like the whole cast returns, but they play like completely different characters and someone else dies. And as for myself personally, um, this year I've just been focusing on directing music videos, which I could do forever. I think I've found a real passion for like just visual storytelling in the sense of music. So that's been what I've been up to.
All right, thank you. James.
Like I said earlier, I'm very much looking forward to the future of what sort of things I can do after getting through this project. So I've got another 3 scripts lined up in very similar vein as Warlock. One has been filmed and needs to be edited, one has been written and needs to be filmed, and one is being written and needs to be finished. So I'm excited for those to come out next year. And much like Che Ling, I have a theatre show opening on December 9th here in Wellington at Bats Theatre, which is pretty cool. It's called Dark Matter. It's about a spaceship on a journey to another planet, and when they get there, they find a coffin with organic life in it, and kind of the whole discussion of what that does to kind of humanity and people's realization of life in the universe.
Yeah, have neither of you heard of pantomimes? It's
My
that's the
fiance also opens her pantomime this weekend, so it's a very exciting time.
those are the traditional Christmas theatre outings from where I grew up, certainly. So, well, I hope that we get to cross paths again at future festivals. In the shorter term, I hope we get to cross paths tomorrow at the awards when you can all vie and glare at one another and see who comes away with the bragging rights. And thank you very much for being part of this conversation, and also thank you for being part of NZ Webfest this year. It's been our pleasure and privilege to have you. Thank you.